I thought it was so sweet. I don't
It's
know.
so good. But therein lies the crux. Brandon looks at every woman like that.
Get to decide when you are welcomed into that family and into his story and that narrative. He gets to decide.
Hi, we're Julie and Kelly, and we're here to find love. Today we're doing a Bachelor in Paradise 2022 recap, Season 8, Week 3. This week's episode was the Ashley, I, and Jared show, which we absolutely hated, but there were some really big moments with Genevieve and Shanae wanting a bigger commitment of Justin and Logan, the cuteness of Brandon and Serene, and then the surprising breakup between Sierra and Michael, and then just some nastiness from Peter and Brittany. Let's start with Sarah and Michael's really surprising breakup.
So with Sierra and Michael's breakup, I mean, they had been kind of, I guess, macking on each other since episode 1, week 1. They seemed to hit it off that first day on the beach and have been together or paired off together since then. So I think a lot of people were surprised, including Sierra, that the relationship came to an end. A lot of people on the internet seemed pretty upset with Michael. He basically said something along the lines of, you know, Sierra was moving a little too fast and moving the relationship, you know, forward in a way that felt maybe too aggressive. Michael wasn't saying that he wasn't interested in a relationship. He was just saying that this relationship with Sierra was going too fast. And I do think that's actually true, right? I mean, I think Sierra was really escalating it. Like the whole thing where she bought 3 stars for him, his dead wife, and his son. That to me felt like too much. I mean, in theory, it's sweet, but it's like you've known him for like a week. And so for you to do something, first of all, permanent, it's the sky, it's the stars. Like to do something permanent that is involving this family that has gone through so much tragedy, to me it feels like, and you don't even know if you're really going to be part of these people's lives. To me it felt almost like invasive. It's like she was kind of like trying to be a part of their story in some way, even though I know ironically she did it because she was trying to point out that the 3 of them will be together forever and they'll always be a family. To me it just felt like it was like some things just take time.
I know that they say when you're on the beach, one day is a week in paradise, so it's like they've been dating for a month, but still 1 month, if that's really what it is in paradise time. I think it was absolutely fair for him to say that she was moving too fast. She's having conversations of other people on the beach like, I do want to get engaged, but only if his son is going to be involved. Ooh, I don't want to think about the fact of him getting bullied. I would be a really great stepmom. I get it, but that spoke to me of her. I mean, I don't want to dog Sierra at all because I think she's an emotionally mature woman. I think she is the most beautiful person on the beach. I think she's so pretty. Her outfits are amazing. She has such a great personality. But it really did speak to her emotional immaturity of entering a dynamic with Michael that is kind of mired in tragedy. And for her to kind of insert herself and kind of elevate it into a fairy tale of, look, I got you guys these stars in the sky because I really want them. I want you to know that they're always going to be a part of our relationship. Well, he didn't co-sign to that. He didn't. Yeah. That's still something he's dealing with. It was just 3 years ago that his wife died from cancer. She wants too much too soon. I don't want to move this fast. She is accelerating it. I know that she has the rose, but the show doesn't matter to me. Here is a person that has her feelings invested in me way too soon. I don't want to hurt her. I'm just gonna let her go. The internet was pretty up in arms about it because they were just like, well, Michael, if you didn't want to date, you shouldn't be on a dating show. And that is true. But Sierra went too fast too soon, and her gesture was really, I thought it was a little problematic. Like when she was doing it, I wasn't swooning. I was thinking, what are you doing? Like this is an end of season thing if you even do it on the show at all.
I love how you put it, like he didn't co-sign. Like you don't get to decide when you are welcomed into that family and into his story and that narrative. He gets to decide, and he didn't welcome you in to be making these kinds of gestures and kind of like inserting yourself. I mean, this is the sky. Like,
yeah, I know.
To me, I'm just like,
that is forever. That is eternity.
Right, yeah. You're stamping your mark onto his experience of the sky and the stars. Like, it's just...
I love that you can't get over that.
I just can't. I think it's too much. It takes something away from him that he didn't decide that he wanted to share with you yet, you know? And it's like, it almost felt like a way for her to, like, escalate the intimacy that wasn't there. Like, as if she was trying to create permanence around their relationship kind of against his will.
Yes.
You know, like,
my God, I totally thought it was like that. It felt very aggressive to me in a way that's not attractive. And it's like, we can't forget that Michael is not like an F-boy on the beach. He is a widow with a kid. Like, this guy has a seriousness and a depth to his life and his situation. And for her to just kind of be like, I don't think she understood it on a fundamental level. I think she understood it from like, well, I know what it's like to be in that kind of family. I know that I love family. I know that I could really take care of him. I get it, but you don't get it. Like, you don't get it, what he's going through. And for her to just kind of like superficially insert herself in, I was like, oh my God, Sierra, stop.
Yeah, it felt superficial. That's such a good way of saying it. It felt so... like, it was like something that has a lot of depth, that she was like acting like she had some hand in it or could put her hands in it as someone who didn't even know him that well. And it's like, it just felt, I don't know. I was freaked out. To me, it feels like, you know, the guy who tries to propose to his girlfriend 4 months in, it feels like, you know, and without talking to her about it beforehand. And it's like, that is something that you discuss together. That is something that you know, figure out when it's right to take these steps to escalate the relationship. It's not something that one person gets to decide. And to me, it felt like Sierra was escalating it kind of without, you know, him quite being there. And we know that that was true, right? Because he was speaking about these doubts that he was having to all the other people on the beach, right? So we know that she clearly was not even checked in to how he was feeling in the relationship, right? Clearly, like, they were so out of sync, and she wasn't actually really aware of his emotional state. And so that just shows that they were 100% not in the place that she was acting like they were. Like, in her head they were there, but they were not. She wasn't paying enough attention. It was like she wasn't reading the room well enough. And again, it's like, this is how you know that it's too soon to make these kinds of big gestures, right? Because if you two are not actually in sync, you don't actually know each other's emotional states, that's like really good evidence that you need to slow down and like really get to know each other before you try to move things along and escalate, right? And so, I don't know. And even, I don't know if you noticed this, but I felt like during the breakup itself, like, she didn't really say very much. She kind of just like nodded, and she was like, okay, if that's what you need. Like, I felt like she didn't even really react, almost like she didn't want to react, like to show how hurt she was, or show, I don't know, or like show that she was upset. I kind of had this feeling of like she wasn't being her full self almost, like around him, like, which again, I was just like, it was just all coming together. I was like, yeah, these two, like, she was acting like they were so far along, but clearly they weren't, because it doesn't even feel like she's able to like show her true emotions around him or do anything other than be the sweet, perfect partner. And it's like,
that's a great point that you brought up, because if she can't do that, then why would she think that she can like buy stars in the sky that represent his family? She can't even be her honest, authentic self.
Exactly.
I think that's an excellent point. She couldn't read the room, and she also didn't read Michael, because if she really did know him, she would understand that him taking his time is showing how much he likes her. It's showing that, like, hey, I know that it's going to be, I know that I'm in a very vulnerable, raw place, and I'm taking this super seriously, that I'm not going to rush into things. I'm not going to talk to you about raising my son that I'm the single father of, until I know that this is for real.
Yeah.
For her to just kind of leapfrog ahead, to me, was a really big demonstration of the fact that they were on totally different pages. She didn't really understand what Michael was looking for in a relationship and a partner, because the right partner would really respect that. And she just didn't respect it as much. I think she just really got caught up in the fairy tale, the feelings, and deep conversations they had, but just because you can have deep conversations with someone doesn't mean emotional investment is there. That just means you guys can talk about things with depth and you guys have some compatibility. That's all it is.
That's so well said. It's kind of like she was positioning herself as this perfect partner who will slot into his life really well, and she's so game for the mother thing. But it's like he needs to invite you in to that, into his world. He needs to invite you into a position where you can mother his child. You do not get to decide whether or not you are going to start mothering his child. Like, that's something that he needs to wait until he's comfortable having someone else in his kid's life. And so, yeah, it just, to me, I was kind of, I mean, I love Sierra, to your point. I think she's, like, actually a very sweet, like, good-hearted person. And, you know, I was sad to see her leave, but I did think it was appropriate for Michael to end it because I think she was just going too far in a way that was making him uncomfortable. And, you know, people were saying, like, oh, if Michael's not ready for a real relationship, like, he should leave. But I don't think that he's not ready for a real relationship. I think he's totally ready for one, but he just needs to go at his own pace and not rush things the way that Sierra was kind of doing. So
you brought up a really excellent point, the way that you kind of spoke about how Michael is being a little bit discerning towards Sierra, and he should be because he needs to be. Sierra just wants to be in a relationship and she could be a mother. So she's like, well, then that works with Michael. But she's not really making sure that the pieces fit. She's like, I can do it, so that means I should do it, right? That means that we should just get into a relationship and I can be the stepmother of his kids and we can get engaged. It makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense. You have to make sure that you really are compatible on a personality level, and that's through dating and just getting to know each other as people before you get caught up in the milestones of the things that you can be together. I think that's a huge, huge thing of dating that a lot of people don't necessarily slow down to really take in because they're so swept up in the pheromones and the excitement and the limerence of being with someone very new and exciting. So I don't know. I thought Michael was fantastic in it. I'm really excited to see how his Bachelor in Paradise journey goes, or if it just ends the next episode. But either way, I respect him.
Match. I know. I respect him too.
I like him. I think he's great.
I like him a lot. And to be honest, like, part of me, like, I know you had said this in our last video, but you kind of were a little suspicious that maybe she liked him a lot more than he liked her, even though I was kind of like on board for it. I think you were right. And when I was watching this episode, I was kind of like feeling like maybe Michael, in the breakup, he talked about his grief a lot, and he talked about how moving so fast in a relationship is really hard for him. But part of me also wondered if maybe he just didn't like her that much. Part of me wondered if, like, in addition to it all moving that so fast, I just kind of wondered if maybe there was like a subconscious thing where he realized that the chemistry wasn't quite there, or he didn't quite like her enough to keep moving forward in the relationship. And at the same time, she was doing all of this stuff that was making him uncomfortable. And so he kind of latched on to that as the reason why he was ending things. But I kind of wondered if even if she didn't do that, maybe he would have come to the conclusion that he didn't like her as much as he needed to and would have ended things anyway. Like, I almost wonder if he made it about the grief and things moving too fast when it was actually a little bit more about, he just wasn't as into her as she was into him.
I love that point. I mean, this is an example of a perfect on paper match. Just because someone is perfect on paper and they're super beautiful and they are a great partner, that doesn't mean they're a great partner for you.
Right.
I totally agree. I think it could have been that kind of relationship where they just had a very, like, steady and very easy paradise experience, and then he theoretically meets someone else, goes on a date with them, lets Sierra down. Different kind of heartbreak, a prolonged heartbreak, but it would have been a heartbreak nonetheless in this situation. I just don't believe they were the right fit for each other.
I think you're right.
So what did you all think about the Michael and Sierra breakup? Do you agree with me and Kelly? Once again, we have a very different take than everyone else on the internet.
I know.
So we always do
this. We're not trying to be controversial, I swear.
I know. We're just seeing, like, okay, if this is regular dating, right? This is our opinions about it. So let us know your opinions down below. We want to know. Okay, with that said, we move into the Genevieve and Justin, Shanae and Logan situation that we've been seeing play out this week. Genevieve and Justin have been in a love triangle with Aaron, and a big part of that is because Genevieve believes that Justin is not demonstrating enough of a commitment to her. The same thing of Shanae, Logan, and James. Shanae has been telling Logan that she's only interested more in James because he's all in on her. This really raises an interesting dating question that we see now. When do you ask someone for a commitment? When is it too soon? When is it too soon to say anything at all? Like, how do you know that you really like someone enough to commit to them when you're still dating a lot of people and nothing is for certain?
Oh God, should I answer it?
Yeah. It's not rhetorical. I really want to know. I don't think that, like, they're in the wrong necessarily, Genevieve and Shanae, but I also think it's a little bit emotionally immature for them to just expect someone's going to come on the beach and just be all in on them. It just doesn't feel like, to me, how dating really works, and for them to expect that, it just felt a little bit like immature to me.
With Shanae and Logan, I kind of don't get it, because I actually do think, like, he's not actually pursuing things with anyone else, right? I think he is only interested in Shanae, and it was just more about, to me, actually, I feel like she pulled that narrative of, like, he's not doing enough from Genevieve. Whereas with Genevieve and Justin, that was a thing that Genevieve had named with Justin earlier, that she, like, wanted him to show more, like, all in, or show more interest in her. Like, Genevieve had said that to Justin since, like, the first week when he went on that date with Victoria. She was saying that to Justin, that she wanted to feel chosen by him, or just feel like he was interested. But Shanae has never been saying that to Logan, so to me it kind of felt like she, like, borrowed that from like, Genevieve and Shanae were having a conversation about this, and Genevieve was explaining that that's why she felt that way about Justin, and Shanae was like, oh yeah, me too, and Logan. I was like, where did this come from? It felt very sudden for Shanae to bring that up, but then you're right, it was kind of like that became, like, her whole thing. Her whole explanation to Logan was just like, I want you to try harder and show me and, like, fight for me, essentially, was, like, the vibe. And that's the question that you're asking, which is, like, when is it appropriate to start going all in and fighting for someone? I mean, I guess it depends. It's like, you do that when you actually do like someone enough to do it. Now, does that mean that if you don't go, like, tunnel vision onto one person, that you don't like them? No, I think that with Justin, like, he pursued things with Victoria, but it didn't seem like he pursued things with Victoria because he was no longer interested in Genevieve. It seemed like he just, whatever, it was like, hot girl asked me on a date. The point of paradise is to go on dates. I'm going to go on a date with this hot girl and see if that's more of a thing than what I have with Genevieve. So, you know, I do think that he was completely within his rights to do that. And at the same time, I also think that, you know, if he was super duper interested and kind of, like, already sure about Genevieve, then he probably wouldn't have done that. It's kind of like Brandon and Serene. It's like, I kind of would be surprised if Brandon went on a date with someone else, because it seems like he's already so sure about Serene. And so, like, it would be very surprising if Brandon or Serene went on a date with another person. It feels like for the two of them, they feel very, very sure about each other. And they were kind of sure about each other early on, in a way that maybe Justin and Genevieve, or at least Justin, was not so sure about Genevieve. And likewise, well, actually, I don't know. Logan and Shanae, I think they were sure about each other, so I don't really know why Shanae...
Which I hate. I just don't like that entire coupling.
I don't like them at all.
Absurd.
But what do you think? I mean, what do you think is, like, the appropriate time to, like, go all in on someone, especially in this weird scenario in Paradise? When is the right time to just put all your eggs in that one basket?
That's a question I also posed for our viewers as well, because I was thinking that the entire time I was watching the episodes this week. On one hand, I totally get where Genevieve and Shanae are coming from. You want someone to show that you really like them, but are you guys not dating? Are you not open to other experiences? How do you want someone to be all in on you when you're not all in on them? I thought it wasn't reciprocal. It was really conditional. to me, it felt more like ego stroking versus like, I really like Logan and I am going to commit to Logan if I know he likes me. It seems like the only upper hand that James and Aaron have is the fact that they like them. They don't even know them, but they say that they like them enough, and that's enough for them to get into this like conundrum with the men that they're currently seeing, which to me demonstrates they don't like them enough, and they just really want to feel the drama, the excitement of what it's like for these men to chase after them because they have the power this week. So to me, I just thought, like, I don't know. I already don't like Genevieve. I don't like Shanae. I don't like them together. I don't like the way that they date on the beach. I think it's really immature. I don't think it's, like, the right way to date. So, yeah, that's how I thought when I saw the episode. And to me, it just kind of feels like everyone on the beach is kind of dating this way. Everyone is dating an image and an idea of who you could have, a relationship you could have without getting to know the person. And I was just not for it.
Monday night when she sat down and told Justin, like, I just need time to think between you and Aaron. And she had just gotten so mad at Justin the previous week for saying that he needed time to think. He was like, she was like, I would rather you just break up with me than need time to think. And then the next week she was saying the exact same thing to Justin. Sorry, I need time to think between you and Aaron. And it's like, oh my gosh, to me it just feels like it's the inconsistency to me that really bothers me, and it just shows that, you know, to your point, it's like a little bit immature. It's a little bit like you don't really have these like strong values of how you think you're supposed to be dating and what's an appropriate way to treat people. You're kind of just being blown around by the whims of your feelings, and you know, that's an indicator of immaturity, right? It's like kind of like in that moment she really wanted Justin, and so she made this big stink about him not being committed enough to her, and then the next week there was another guy that she was interested in, and all of a sudden it becomes okay for people to be questioning. Like, she just changed her mind, her values, and she was just mad at Justin in both situations. And it's like, it's really hard to date someone who doesn't have that internal consistency, because you don't really know how to please them, right? You don't really know what they really believe in and why they feel so strongly about one thing, and then the next week they're doing something that's completely the opposite. It makes it really hard to know how to navigate those conversations, how to navigate conflict with them, because you don't actually know what they stand for and what they believe. When you don't know what someone believes, it's hard to, because like in a relationship, that's kind of the point, right? It's like you understand what's important to your partner, even if it's not the same thing that's important to you. You just understand what's important to them, and then you cater to that, right? You satisfy the needs that they have. But with Genevieve, it's kind of like she's shifting, right? And so it becomes very confusing for Justin. Now, granted, I will say that I also didn't love Justin's behavior in this week. Like, Justin was, to me...
there's a reason why they like each other, right? You do like what you are like.
Whereas Genevieve is immature, I think Justin was kind of mean to her. When she was, like, explaining this whole thing about, like, yeah, I just really want you to put in more effort. Here are the moments that made me feel unseen. I didn't like it when I didn't like it when yesterday it felt like we didn't really talk, and like, I don't know, I think maybe you kissed me once, but I just didn't really feel like I got a lot of attention from you. And then he kind of made fun of her. He was like, you want me to kiss you? Like, how many times do you want me to kiss you? And I was like, Justin, like, she's just being honest about how she's feeling. Like, making fun of her needs is not going to get you anywhere. Like, you don't have to agree with what she needs, but that's what she needs. Like, and that's the thing about relationships, is you don't need to see things the same way. You might not need 5 kisses a day, but if Genevieve does, like, what are you making fun of her for needing 5 kisses a day is not going to get you anywhere. Or telling her, hey, need fewer kisses. Like, it's like, what? Is it going to hurt you to kiss her 5 times? No. So why are you making her feel bad for just saying the thing that she wants? So to me, I didn't really like the way that he approached the conversation. Whether or not we think it's appropriate for her to be asking for so much is a different story. But I think that him kind of like making fun of her for the things that she needs, I was just kind of like, that's a bad vibe to me. I think with Justin, I think there's just not like a lot of give in him. There's a lot of, like, he is honest. I feel like he understands the dynamics, but then when something happens that he doesn't agree with, he just kind of lashes out a little bit. So I just, I didn't really like, actually my opinion of Justin has very much decreased over the course of this season. I liked him a lot in the season that he was in. Whose season was it? Michelle? I really liked him in Michelle's season, but actually in this season, I've kind of felt him, I don't know, I think he's been very, I don't know, unempathetic to Genevieve. And granted, like I said, I think Genevieve is a very hard person to date based on what we've seen. But I do think that Justin has not been, I don't know, there were moments where he kind of like snapped at her and she kind of, you could see that she was like shocked. She's like, are you like, look, why are you talking to me like that? You could see there were moments when she felt really shocked by his reactions to things that she was saying and to things that he was saying. So to me, I think that overall it's like a bad couple, bad match. Send them apart.
Everyone related in these love triangles that we're talking about are a bad fit for each other. Because to your point about what you're saying about Genevieve and Justin, I agree. I think it was great that she was able to be vulnerable and tell Justin, I don't feel connected to you. And an example is the fact that you're not kissing me as much as I would like you to kiss me. That was a valid concern, but the way that she packaged it was really superficial. It was like, I don't feel connected to you in this relationship, so I need this amount of cuddling, this amount of kissing, this amount of thing, because she doesn't feel anything that deeply emotional for him yet. So she's kind of like hanging it on these like physical affirmations. I do get that, but I feel like she's been a little bit petulant towards Justin and demanding a lot of things out of him that he doesn't even know that he has to provide. Like, she feels like, to me, like she's testing him constantly and he just keeps failing at it. Like, he's just bumbling his way through the beach. Just like, went on a date with Victoria. He went on a date with Victoria, came back, tried to speak to her. It's her birthday. Bad situation all around. Then she goes on a date with Aaron, and then he wasn't able to handle that correctly because they just don't know each other well enough, and that's the crux of it. You don't know each other well enough to commit to each other, so why are you asking for such a big commitment from the other person? Why do you want someone to be all in and love you when they don't even know you yet? Yeah. So many of the couples on the beach this season have that problem. It's not as fun to watch, just knowing like they're asking for so much when they have so little to work off of.
I wonder if it's even partially like a love language thing too, of like the things that like Justin maybe is like more like a words guy. Like he would verbally affirm Genevieve and like verbally tell her like, hey, I am still interested in you. He would verbally tell her these things, and maybe she's a little bit more of a touch girl where she like wants to feel physically connected to him via kisses and cuddles and so on and so forth. Or maybe it's like quality time, like she wants quality time with him and he's just kind of doing gifts, like here's a cake, and that's not necessarily like what she is looking for. So it might be like a disconnect of love languages here, in which Justin thinks that he is providing affection, but he's not providing affection in the way that Genevieve wants. And to your point, it's like Justin shouldn't be expected to read her mind. However, she did start to communicate this to him, and he, instead of internalizing what she said and being like, okay, yeah, I can do those things, he like made fun of her when she started explaining to him like, these are the things that I need. He was like, why do you need that? And it's like, okay, Justin, like, if you don't want to provide love the way that she wants, then you don't want to provide love. Like, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. You don't need to want to provide love. If you don't want to provide love, end it. Don't make it seem like she's a bad person for wanting love in a way that makes her feel good. Like, that's how I feel about it. I just think that, they were both childish, honestly, in the way they communicated. But to me, I land a little bit more on the side of, I think Justin was just kind of mean to her. I mean, I think she was mean to him in moments too. I don't know. They're just such a poor fit for a couple. So I'm just kind of like, split off, guys. Just go do your things.
All of them to just like shake up, break up, and just go on. So when is it too soon to display interest in someone? Is Genevieve and Shanae in the right to demand more from their guys? Let us know down below. If you're new here, welcome. We're two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially Bachelor shows like Bachelor in Paradise. So if you're into this sort of stuff, hit that subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation.
On the subject of committing really quickly, let's talk about Brandon and Serene. It's funny, I think that I have done a 180. Maybe both Julie, you and I have both done 180s, because in Michelle's season, you were so into Brandon and his, like, romanticism, and I was kind of like...
I'm a romantic. I'm just all into it.
And I'm such a skeptic. I mean, I'm a romantic too, but I don't know. I get really skeptical when people just, like, talk big words, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and you're just like, I'm gonna love you forever, but I'm like, ugh, I hate that stuff. And so I didn't like Brandon that much in Michelle's season. Not that I disliked him, I just wasn't into him. I was just so skeptical. And then I feel like in this season, I am so into Brandon and Serene. I think they're so freaking cute. That moment when they were going to go on the date and she walks down the beach in that dress and he walks up and he starts tearing up just seeing her in that dress. I was like, oh my gosh, Brandon. Like,
you get the Brandon thing now.
I mean, it was just so sweet and genuine. That's like, I think that's like how most girls want to be. Like when you get all dressed up and you got your makeup looking good, your dress is all cute, and then you walk up to your guy, that's exactly how you want your guy to react. But, you know, most guys will never react that way. Maybe they'll be like, oh, wow, you look great. But, like, you know.
I know, but for them to tear up, Brandon is a special man. What a rare exception.
I was so, like, that moment, I was like, wow. And then later she said in her In the Moment interview, she was like, the way he looked at me, like, I've never experienced that. Never experienced someone look at me the way that Brandon looked at me. I was like, to me, I thought it was so sweet. I don't know.
It's so good. But therein lies the crux. Brandon looks at every woman like that. That's why. I mean, you know that I was such a fan of him for Michelle's season, just because I love the way that he dates. I love the way that he's so vulnerable, that he walks into it, that he knows what he wants, that he chooses the person and commits to them every single day. But he said the same things to Michelle in Michelle's season. I know, because he was my favorite. I wanted them to choose each other because I thought, whoa, he really, really likes her. And now here is Serene, who is arguably the most beautiful person on the beach in real life. I think in the human race, she is just really up there. And he's saying, so, like, I get it, Brandon. I totally get it. But he's saying the same things to her. He's saying the exact same things to Serene. Maybe Serene has never heard a man say it, but I think Brandon says this for any woman he falls for. It doesn't happen a lot, but when he falls for them, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I don't know what I would do without you. I would do anything for you. I get it, but when you say it, it makes it so not special.
I mean, I am generally inclined to believe you. Like, I really do hate when, especially on this show, but just in general, when I hear people say things like really big statements like, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen. I'm going to choose you every day for the rest of my life.
How do you know?
How do you know that? And it's like, especially when it's someone that you've just met and don't actually know that well. It's like, what? I hate when people have these big generic statements that are just so overblown, couldn't possibly be true. Like, they are just, you read that people say this on, like, Instagram captions, like, about their girlfriends, and that's why you're regurgitating these, like, sweet phrases. Like, that's what that kind of stuff generally feels like to me. However, I think with Brandon and Serene, I just buy it.
Oh, wow. You are totally bought into his swag.
I know. I just kind of buy it. I mean, you can't fake those tears when he came down and he looked at her and he just starts tearing up. And you know what? Listen, maybe before with Michelle, like, he was saying a lot of big things.
Oh my God, you're
Michelle,
totally defending him. I love this right now. What is happening? I'm skeptical of the man now. Like, I think they're totally a good match. I think Serene and Brandon like each other. I see them getting engaged out of all of the couples on the beach. Yeah. But I don't think he has treated... I think that there is something about the beauty of being specific and careful and tender about the way that you commit to someone and the way that you see someone, and it's a very individual relationship that's different than any other relationship. It's like Brandon is the template of a perfect man, and he just puts it on every woman, and every woman falls for it because it's exactly what we want.
I mean,
who doesn't want to be told that? I would love to wear an amazing dress if my boyfriend to start crying when he sees me.
I know. I was just so moved in that moment. And the birthday thing I thought was really sweet.
That was great.
Which, by the way, was not something, like, those are the kind of things, like, you literally cannot repeat them because it was based on something that he heard from, not Michelle, God. It was something that he heard
Freudian
from...
slip.
I know. It was something that he heard from Serene. Like, Serene told that story about her birthday and not liking her birthday. And he internalized that and then did something really sweet based on that story. So he is personalizing his gestures to some extent.
I mean, the man can personalize his template, but I think that I just feel like it just doesn't feel as special as if he had not done that with Michelle and he played it a little bit cooler, or he really just I don't know, acted a lot more specific about who he was as a person, that would be one thing. It's just the fact that I remember what he did for Michelle's season because I remember his gestures so clearly. It is literally copy and paste.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I guess it's tough because, you know, I mean...
You love him this season, I can tell.
Olivia Rodrigo would know. Sometimes, like, you
Deja
just
vu.
kind of...
Yeah.
Like... The sweet gestures, especially if you're in a really serious relationship, like I bet I could reach back, I mean, into my past serious relationships and see things that, that's stuff that I do with my partner now. And I'm like, I bet I could like reach back and see stuff like that. So, I mean, not all of it. Obviously, my relationship currently is unique, but from my past relationships and all of my relationships, there are things that I shared with past partners that I don't share with my current partner, and, you know, so on and so forth. Like, every relationship is different, but, you know, I bet that you could pick out elements that, you know, would maybe qualify under that deja vu category. But, you know, I just think that Brandon, it's hard for me to fully judge.
I know you love him now.
I don't know.
Now that you're into him, it's game over. Kelly's defending him until the very end.
All right,
and I get it. That's how I was like that for my show season too, because that's how Brandon got me. But I'm disillusioned by him.
You've seen the light. Okay.
I have seen the light, and I do think another thing too is the fact that him and Serene are so similar. One of our viewers pointed it out the last episode. They are both teachers.
Wait, Brandon's a teacher?
No, Serene.
Oh, Serene and Michelle are both teachers.
Serene and Michelle are teachers. They look really similar. They have really similar personalities. I think that, to me, I really do believe they're going to make it to the end. An engagement, a marriage, I don't know. Brandon, show me something new. Show me something you haven't already done with the other person, and maybe they are having different conversations. It's right. You do repeat things with past relationships because who you are in love is who you are as a person. But I think he's getting just so caught up in the fairy tale, like all of these people are getting caught up in, and he's just amplifying. You've always said this, and it's really stuck with me. He has really big feelings. So now he's saying some really big words that he knows. And boys, he's saying the same big words. Again and again and again. The boy is like a, like you just put a hot girl in his view, and he's just like, all right. He just repeats the same word. I love you forever. You are so beautiful.
I cannot wait to hear it. Commenters, please tell us what you think about Julie's take here. Where are you?
But guys, I get it because I love Brandon, but now I'm just a little bit skeptical of the man.
I am so excited to hear what other people think about this. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I totally agree with what you're saying, and yet some part of me still is like, but I love them. So.
I know, because you fell for it. I think I knew the outfit scene when I saw that. I thought, yep, Kelly's gonna love that. Because Brandon did one thing for Michelle. I forget what it was in her season, but he did one conversation that I love, that I personally would fall for, and that's why I put him in my top 3, because I just thought, whoa, any girl would love that.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Point taken, point proven.
What I will say is that I do think that Brandon and Serene have more potential than Brandon and Michelle, just particularly because I think that Serene and Brandon are more they're both sweet, but like kind of simple people. Like they're not so complex. Like I felt like Michelle was so complex. So I always kind of felt like Brandon and Michelle were at heart not the best match because she was just so heady as a person, and I just think Brandon is a lot more like simple, go with the flow kind of guy, which I think is more what Serene is like. So in that sense, I will say that I do think that those two seem like a better pair. Even though Michelle and Serene are very similar, I do think they are distinct, at least in that sense, that I think Serene is just, she's more serene. She's just like a lot like of a more grounded and even person, versus Michelle was also grounded and even, but she was just so complex. She had so many complex ideas. She wanted to have complex conversations. She could actually be a good match for Michael. Sorry, I was just anyways. So I do think that maybe Brandon and Serene. Let us know down below. You all give us your thoughts. What do you think about Brandon and Serene? Do you think that they're going places? Do you think that you could see it working out? Do you think that Brandon is too much and doing the same thing, copy and paste to different women? Like, let us know down below. Okay, let's talk about Brittany and Peter, because, man, I got a lot to say about these two. First of all, I love Brittany. I think she's so freaking amazing. I have been fed up with this season giving her no screen time, no boys going after her. I'm like, you are so, to me, I think, okay, if I had to rank the hottest girls, no, sorry, I'm not going to do this.
Scratch that.
Brittany is so freaking fine. I think she is
Queen of Paradise, truly.
A good-looking gal, and I love her personality. I think she's super even too. She seems really smart, and also she's like, seems like a good gal. Like the way she was like sticking up for Jill during the Jill Jacob drama, the way that she stuck up for Jill when Romeo tried to make out with her, when Romeo was seeing Jill. Like, it seems like Brittany just, I don't know, she is not whimsy. She like has very clear, like, she has a lot of integrity, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I really like that about her. I think that she just is so integritous. And so I really like Brittany a lot. And so I have just been mad, honestly. I've been so angry watching all of these guys come through and no one hitting on Brittany. I'm like, this is criminal. But then freaking Peter comes along, and I was like, dear God, anyone but Peter. Because Peter, I mean, if you remember from Michelle's season, we'll leave a link somewhere up above. We did have a whole conversation about how much we felt freaked out by Peter's like kind of toxic behavior. Like he was the biggest red flag I think I've seen on this show, just insofar as the way that he was like kind of like physically aggressive with the other guys in the house. He like threw that one guy's jacket in the water. He was just so dismissive. To me it was like too far, honestly. And then when he showed up on the beach, I was just like, hopefully it'll be different, like he'll be more chill. But we saw almost immediately that he is the same guy doing and pulling the same bullshit. And so when he pulled Brittany for this date, I was so, honestly, it was like a high tragedy. It was like gold with like, you know, a pebble. Like that's how it felt like to me. I was just like so mad watching them hold hands and walk out on this date. And part of me was like, almost like mad at production. I was like, I cannot believe that you would bring in this guy who's kind of shown some scary tendencies and kind of like exposed these women to this guy. I was just kind of like, ugh. It just made me, I was just upset about it. And then, gosh, on the date itself, it just felt like, I mean, he's that guy. I talked to so many women about this. That guy, you go on your first date and he spends a whole entire date talking about himself. He doesn't ask you one question. It's just all about him, everything in his life, bragging about this, bragging about that, but just never turning a question back to you and your world and what's happening in it. And so he just exemplified that like stereotype about, you know, bad first dates with men. And so, you know, it was not surprising at all that she was not interested in him. But then the thing that I think took it to another level was then, like, so he tries to kiss her when clearly she's like not interested in him and she's like not feeling it, but he still like tries to make that move. And then she like makes it clear, like, oh hey, I don't really want to do that. I move really slow. I don't really want to kiss on this date. Like, she made it clear. And then later she comes back from the date and she's like, yeah, he kept trying to like touch me. He kept like putting his hands on my legs. I'm like, all right.
Hate that.
That's too much. Like, I don't like that at all. That's a bad vibe. And I felt bad because, think about it. Like, Brittany was on this date, on this show, in this structure. It's not like she really had a way to leave, right? It was like kind of, to me, it felt like, I was like, God, she's like trapped on this terrible date with this guy who keeps touching her. And there's this expectation that they should be making out when she clearly doesn't want to kiss. And so I was just like, this feels a little bit, it's like almost like unsafe for her. Or like she was in this situation that, I don't know. I was like, I felt freaked out for her, honestly. And of course, they get back and he immediately goes to lashing out at her, right? He immediately goes to the other guys and just starts like trash talking her because she didn't want to kiss him. He was like, she doesn't want to kiss me. She must not be into relationships. She must be clout chasing. He gets into this misogynistic rant about Florida girls and clout chasing. I was like, oh my gosh, it like took 1 second for this to come out of him. This really just heinous behavior, this like really toxic misogynist bullshit. So I was just like, oh my gosh, and now she's gonna be the target of his ire. We saw in the preview that he's gonna at some point like have this like harsh conversation with her. And so it just, to me, I was just kind of mad, honestly. Like, we knew this about Peter already from his season, so to kind of put these girls in the situation where they're gonna be trapped on a date with him and like exposed to his weird, like, I don't know, I don't like throwing around the word narcissistic because I think people throw that word around way too much on the internet to describe people that they really don't know. So I don't want to throw that word around. I saw a lot of people on the internet using that word to describe him. What I will say is that clearly he has a lot of the common signs and symptoms of narcissism, which include like grandiosity, just like over exaggeration in terms of your sense of self, kind of making everything about you and lashing out at people who don't give you the validation that you want. These are all telltale signs of narcissism. And to me, it just like to put Brittany kind of like in his trap, like in his harm's way. I was just kind of like, and then she kind of couldn't leave the date. They were all saying like, wow, they've been gone for such a long time. And I was like, oh my God, this poor girl was just like out on this like 12-hour date on a boat with this guy. I was just like, oh, and like kind of forced to continue interacting with him even after she realized that she didn't like him. She told him that she doesn't want to, I don't know. To me, I got bad vibes from this, and I just felt bad for her. And she seemed like she felt uncomfortable and honestly unsafe when she came back and she was like, I feel really safe with you, Andrew, after like everything I went through today. I was like, to me, I was like, oh my God, like it seems like she was really freaked out by her date and like she was like looking for like comfort afterwards. So,
like, production does really have a duty to keep their contestants safe. They did not keep Brittany safe. And to me, just watching their date, seeing the trailer of him, just really being nasty to everyone.
Yeah.
Exactly. That to me was just really, really disturbing to watch. He is the exact kind of guy that I always warn people against going on dates with on dating apps. Like, maybe he has really great pictures or a 6-pack or his own business. That doesn't matter. It's all about him and what he wants. And if you can't give it to him, whether that's attention, whether that's affection, whether that's sex, he will turn on you. And it just won't be safe to be in a situation where someone isn't looking for a consensually like fun time to be with someone. He's really just after what he wants. That to me makes someone really unsafe to get to know.
Right.
So I just hated seeing that on the beach.
Completely agree. To me, it was like, like those guys who will like, they'll hit on you. I mean, you see this all the time, like on dating apps, like a guy will be like, hey, want a bone, and then the girl will be like, nah, thank you, and then they'll be like, well,
you're ugly anyway.
You're ugly anyway. Like, whatever, you're fat. And it's like,
then why did you want to sleep with me?
You were just hitting on me like a second ago. Exactly. So it's just kind of like that. To me, that's what Peter feels like, just the kind of guy who will just completely lash out at women for rejecting him.
Turn on a dime.
Turn on a dime, exactly. And you're right. That's exactly the kind of guy that you want to watch out for, right? You can identify, I always say this, it's like people are patterns. Like when you see someone treating someone else in this vicious and vile way, you are not going to be different. They will turn that on you as soon as you cross them, right? They will fire that same vicious energy at you as soon as the tables turn. And so, I I just, like, this is the type of person that I just stay far away from. And I'm sad for Brittany that in the next episode, like, whatever, she says this thing of, like, I see the way that you treat people who turn you down. And then she gets up and walks away, and he goes like, yeah, walk away. He, like, yells at her on her way out. And it was just like, I don't know. Like, to me, like, that stuff, yeah, it's like that stuff that stays with you. It's so scary to be in those types of conflicts with someone who you don't actually really trust to have your best interests at heart, wherein one person has demonstrated a willingness to use, you know, verbal violence and sometimes physical violence. And so it that does make things really different to me than just like two people, like, you know, Genevieve and Justin squabbling on the beach is very different to me than the dynamic between Brittany and Peter, where, like, I would be scared for Brittany. Like, even when he leaves the beach, I would be scared that he's gonna, like, go on the internet and just, like, lash out. And I feel bad for Brittany. She already dealt with that stupid rumor from last season when she was on, and all those girls, like, made up a rumor about her being, like, an escort or sex worker. And it was like,
that was her. Okay,
that was her. And then now, once again, here's this guy coming in with this weird rumor about her being some Florida model who does just chasing clout. It's like, what is with the misogyny here? I'm so over girls having to deal with these types of ridiculous rumors and having to deal with just people who, as soon as they cross you, they will just completely blast you on national television. And it's like, I'm
she's getting smeared. I forgot that was her.
So I'm just over it.
So what did you all think about the Peter date and how he handled it? How do you think Brittany handled it? Tell us down below. We want to know.
So if you've watched at this point in the video and you aren't subscribed to our channel yet, hit that subscribe button. We do this every single week. We recap every single episode of Bachelor in Paradise and all the other Bachelor shows. So you should definitely subscribe and follow along. We will be back next week for week 4 of Bachelor in Paradise, and we'll be recapping the rose ceremony, everything that goes on there. In the meantime, we'll leave a link to our last video here so you can see what we thought about last week and week 2 on Bachelor in Paradise. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.